66 million years ago, an asteroid about 10 kilometers in diameter struck the Earth at a speed of 70,000 kilometers per hour. On that day, the dinosaurs, the dominant rulers of the planet, experienced something beyond anything we can imagine. A chain reaction of disasters spread across the globe: wildfires, earthquakes, dust storms, tsunamis, firestorms, and volcanic eruptions. Together, these catastrophic events brought an end to the dinosaur era, which had lasted for 160 million years. To trace the origins of this catastrophe, we must go back much further in time, 100 million years before the impact. Between Mars and Jupiter, in the asteroid belt, billions of rocky bodies were racing through space in the same direction. However, one of them began moving along a different path, reaching a speed of 30,000 kilometers per hour. When objects travel on different trajectories, collisions are inevitable. Two asteroids eventually collided and shattered into millions of fragments. Among them was a piece about 10 kilometers wide, one that would go on to change the fate of Earth. After traveling through space for 100 million years, it was finally approaching its destination, Earth. Meanwhile, the dinosaurs on Earth were completely unaware of the impending apocalypse. Two Tyrannosaurus rexes had just taken down an adult Triceratops. The meat would have been enough to feed them for a month, but they would never have the chance to enjoy it. High above, at a distance of 400,000 kilometers, the moon stood as Earth's last line of defense. Scarred and battered, it had protected Earth countless times in the past, but even it could fail, and now, nothing could stop this asteroid. In what is now central Mexico, a group of Alamosaurus were still wandering the plains in search of food, but their peaceful moments were running out. The most terrifying nightmare was about to begin. As the asteroid drew closer to Earth, its speed increased, reaching 70,000 kilometers per hour. When it entered the atmosphere, friction turned it into a blazing fireball. That fireball was aimed at Mexico and at the Alamosaurus below. Its temperature soared to 35,000 degrees, and its brightness outshone the sun itself. This asteroid took only 5 seconds to pass through the atmosphere. The impact itself seemed to happen in an instant. 500 kilometers from the impact site, the intense flash of light made the bodies of the Alamosaurus appear almost transparent. The scorching brightness burned their eyes. Though they could not see what was happening, they could feel that the force of the collision was greater than all the nuclear weapons in history combined. The impact struck the shallow waters of what is now the Gulf of Mexico. In less than a second, the surrounding seawater instantly vaporized. The asteroid itself disintegrated upon impact with Earth. At a distance of 500 kilometers, the air temperature surged to 600 degrees Celsius, hot enough to boil the skin off dinosaurs. The searing blast stripped all nearby living beings of moisture. The Alamosaurus were literally roasted alive. Along the northwestern Pacific coast, vaporized rock shot into the sky, creating streaks of brilliant light. Even 4,000 kilometers away, pterosaur nests could see a blazing fireball on the horizon. The scale of the events was enormous. Within just 1 minute, the area around the impact site was covered with bodies. Some fortunate Alamosaurus, shielded by mountains, managed to survive the initial heat blast. But during the impact, countless house-sized rocks were whirled into the sky, and whatever goes up must come down. The survivors would soon face a deadly bombardment of falling debris. And yet, all of this was only the beginning. On the other side of the Earth, disaster had not yet arrived. The Troon family was still going about their usual activities near their favorite watering hole, but they, too, were destined to face the enemy that was on its way. About 100 kilometers above the impact site, 70 billion tons of pulverized material formed a vast cloud of dust and molten glass. This ejecta cloud, with temperatures reaching 15,000 degrees Celsius, expanded outward at a speed of 10,000 kilometers per hour, scorching the earth with extreme heat. Animals in the forest sensed danger, but not from the sky. The warning came from beneath the ground. During the impact, most of the energy was released outward, and only 1% was transmitted into the Earth. Yet that 1% triggered a magnitude 11.1 earthquake, 60 times more powerful than any earthquake ever experienced by humans. Small animals fled into burrows for shelter, while triceratops struggled desperately to keep their footing amid the violent shaking and falling debris. At the same time, the cloud in the sky became charged with millions of volts of static electricity, forming a massive electrical storm. Superheated rocks turned into fiery projectiles, raining down and striking the wings of pterosaurs. They had survived the earthquakes below, but could not escape the firestorm above. Their wings were torn and burned until they could no longer fly. In just a few dozen minutes, what had once been a paradise for dinosaurs turned into an endless inferno. Yet the high-temperature cloud continued to spread. On the other side of the Earth, in what is now Mongolia, temperatures began to rise rapidly by several degrees every second. 90 minutes after the impact, ground temperatures there reached 300 degrees Celsius. Countless dinosaurs were burned alive. Still, a few were lucky. The microclimate inside caves allowed some animals to remain temporarily cool, but the extreme heat of the ejecta cloud ignited massive wildfires. These fires grew so intense that they generated their own winds. Air pressure in valleys dropped sharply, creating vacuum-like conditions that sucked in flames, turning already dry vegetation into explosive fuel. A firestorm reaching temperatures of 1,800 degrees Celsius swept through entire valleys. Some small animals, sheltered beneath the flames, managed to survive, but the massive dinosaurs had nowhere to hide. For them, there was only one fate: death. This massive wave slammed into 15,000 kilometers of coastline. After the overwhelming surge passed, the land was left covered with bodies. In the days following the impact, a relentless series of disasters unfolded. Although a few thousand dinosaurs managed to survive, their species was already doomed. Any species requires a large population to sustain itself. Once numbers fall below a critical threshold, extinction becomes inevitable. The final blow came from deep within the Earth. Seismic shockwaves from the impact spread across the globe, triggering aftershocks that lasted for months. These tremors disturbed magma deep within the Earth's core, forcing it to erupt violently through the crust. Volcanoes all over the world, once dormant, were awakened. Massive amounts of volcanic ash thickened the already global cloud layer, blocking out sunlight and heat. The Earth entered a prolonged period of cold, a kind of impact winter. But what ultimately killed the last Tyrannosaurus was not cold or starvation. It was toxic gas, hydrogen sulfide, released from deep underground through volcanic activity, seeped into the atmosphere. These gases paralyzed the lungs, causing death by suffocation. 3 months after the asteroid impact, only a handful of dinosaurs remained. The survivors tried to start anew, but inbreeding and disease further reduced their numbers until only one dinosaur was left. And then it too died. A dynasty that had ruled the Earth for 160 million years came to an end.